Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I have another little oil painting to share with you this week. And this little painting belongs in the same series as the other 3 paintings I showed you guys in my last week's video. And I hope to bring these little guys along with me to Anime North, which is a very large convention that happens at the end of May in Toronto, Canada. So today I want to start off the video with a little bit of housekeeping. I have to mention first that I am closing my online shop this Friday, sometime in the afternoon. So if you're interested in ordering anything from me, then I suggest that you order soon. And I'm closing my shop temporarily, not permanently, and that is because I'm going to be out of town starting Saturday. For about 6 weeks, I'm going to Halifax to visit my boyfriend, and I am hoping to be able to make videos while I'm there, so I am bringing my tripod, my phone, my phone holder and clamp and all that stuff that I need for filming an art video. And since I am going to the Anime North convention at the end of May, I want to make more artwork for the convention, so I'm going to be bringing some art supplies with me as well. I hope to be able to make some YouTube videos while I'm away. I can't guarantee that there's gonna be a video every week. Ideally, I would love to have a video done every week, but this convention is a pretty big deal to me and I wanna put my best foot forward. So I am going to prioritize it over the videos, but I can guarantee that you will at least see a video every 2 weeks from me. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to do one a week, but I just don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. So if you see me not posting a video for a week, then do not worry. I have not disappeared. I've not forgotten you. I am just on a little business/leisure trip, and I have a lot on my plate, and I plan on coming back to my regular schedule afterwards. And there's just a couple more things before I get into talking about the actual art in the video. And one of them is that I am apparently one of the 6 finalists for the Shorty Awards, which is still a pretty mysterious thing to me, but hey, I think that's still pretty cool. And I just want to thank anyone that has cast a vote my way. I really appreciate it. I've been invited to go to their awards ceremony in New York City sometime in April, and I'm not going to be able to go because 1, I am not in town, 2, they are not providing airfare, which if they had provided, I would definitely go out of my way to go, but I don't think the awards are big enough for that to happen. Nonetheless, it's still pretty cool to think that my name is going to be read out as one of the nominees in the art category. And finally, the last thing I wanted to mention is that my nap time piece got into this year's Spectrum, which if you guys weren't familiar with already, Spectrum is an art annual that recognizes the year's best in fantasy and science fiction art and illustration. I entered the nap time piece under the unpublished category because it was just a personal piece. It wasn't for any kind of publication. And to my pleasant surprise, I ended up getting into the book, so I'm very thrilled to hear that, and I can't wait to have the book in my hands in November. So that's all the housekeeping I wanted to get out of the way today, and now we can talk about the art. So as you can see, this is another oil painting, and I am not an expert at oil painting. Oil painting is probably the medium I'm least experienced with, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. The whole time I was painting this, it was like hashtag I don't know what I'm doing. And the part that is most mysterious to me at the moment with oil painting is how to actually start the oil painting. I do what I think is an underpainting to start the painting, but I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. And what I do is I take burnt umber with a little bit of cad red light and I dilute it with a bunch of solvent, which in my case is Gamblin's Gamsol, and that makes the oil paint much more easier to work with. And it's kind of like I'm pre-painting the painting just in terms of value and not bringing color into it right away. My understanding is if you do a really good underpainting, then you can have some areas of the underpainting show through, and these areas, because they are not heavily painted on, they contrast the heavily painted areas nicely and give it a sense of depth. And the reason why an underpainting is usually done in warm colors as opposed to cool colors is because warm colors are more natural to emanate through than cool colors, especially if you are working with skin. And anything that has the potential of subsurface scattering, like skin and fruit and any other translucent objects. But let's move on from that for now. So what I really wanted to achieve for this painting was an old vintagey vibe, and how I went about that was to give it a kind of yellowed, faded quality to it. You know how old illustrations and artwork tends to have a yellow tinge to them because they, I guess, have been out in the sun, or maybe bright colors in print weren't very accessible back then. I don't know, but old vintage illustrations tend to have this yellow cast to them. So I wanted to recreate that aesthetic, and what I did was to replace white with yellow. So whenever in the painting I wanted to use white, I used a very light yellow. It's a common misconception that white is warm. A lot of quote-unquote beginner artists tend to use white to indicate a light source and to indicate highlights, but they don't always realize that applying white to pigment, it ends up cooling the color temperature, which is not always the effect you want, especially if you are painting something that's supposed to be in direct sunlight, because sunlight is warm and you don't want your highlights to go towards white because white is cool. So that's something I was very mindful of as I was painting, which was to keep my highlights warm. And if you want a consistent lighting effect in your painting, that's one of the ways to go about doing it, which is to keep your highlights very consistent in terms of color temperature. And another thing about color temperature in this piece. So I have this girl and she has a fiery orangey red hair, and she's against a bright blue backdrop, which, if you know, are two opposite colors of the color wheel. So there is big room for ugly garishness to happen, which I guess isn't the worst thing to happen because clown aesthetics are typically garish and contrasty anyways, but I wanted the best of both worlds. I wanted all my colors to be harmonized, and I wanted to keep the colors as bright as possible. And the way to do that is to pick one color as the main focal color, the color you won't compromise on, the color that you want to keep most saturated. And in this case for me was her orangey hair color. I really wanted to keep it as orange and red as possible, considering she's against a blue-green background. The way to have two bright colors coexist in the same picture is to pick one to be the loudest and the star of the show, and one to be more of a supportive figure and less saturated. So what I made sure to do was to incorporate some of the orange-red color into my sky color when I was mixing it. So mixing complementary colors together will help gray down the color, which was what I was going for in this case. The blue sky might look pretty bright, but it's actually more grayer than you'd think. The blue of her hat, however, is a pretty bright blue, and that was to separate it from the rest of the sky, and it's also closer to us in space, and things that are closer to us tend to be more saturated than things that are further away from us because of the atmosphere. So one last thing I want to mention about color in this piece before I go: how to make a figure look like they are existing in that space and are affected by the same lighting scenario is to have consistency in color. And in this case, the unifying color was the sky blue color because it affects every form in the piece. So what I did was mix a big batch of the sky blue color and any receding forms, any forms that are receding into space, will have more of this sky blue color mixed into it because they are reflecting the sky around them, and there is more atmosphere between these forms and the viewer. So for example, there is more blue on the sides of her face because I wanted it to appear that there is a plane change there and that those planes are facing away from us and not towards us. And when you can indicate plane changes with subtle temperature shifts, then you have a sense of form and three-dimensionality, which is a good thing. So in conclusion, if I can give you guys any tips regarding color and color mixing, pick one color that has the most precedence and every other color kind of falls from the hierarchy from that, which means they should not be as saturated as the star color. They should be a little more gray. And an easy way to mix this color is to bring in a little bit of the star color, the bright, loud color, into the color you're wanting to mix, and it will help in both toning the color down and also creating a nice harmonized color that fits into the rest of the painting. And a tip for creating an illusion of depth and form and also having harmonized colors is to have your receding planes of the form be affected by the color of the atmosphere that your form is surrounded in. Every situation is different. It depends on your picture. If your figure is in a dense green forest, then maybe that color is green. Depends on what is also adjacent to the plane. Just remember that color is very relative and it's influenced by everything around it. I know, it's easier said than done, right? So that is it for the video today. I hope that was helpful in any way. I hope it made sense. And if it didn't, I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!